Welcome back, and we are proceeding with the petrol canopy station. Now, we want to add some secondary beams on top here. You can see that we had already created a connection between that member and this member, and also we want to add another member running all the way to this far end here. But if I zoom close here, you can see I have no connection placed here because the orientation of this beam is not allowing any appropriate connection between this beam and this column. Now let me just create a connection there. I'll go to wind column connection and beam to column connection, and I'll pick the beam and the column, and we'll have a connection right there. And we'll come this far end here and pick the beam and pick the column right there, and we have a connection. So let me just show you something briefly, and let me just select on that by left clicking and holding my right button on the mouse and move my mouse. I'll be able to rotate that. So I want to zoom close here. You can see I have a connection here, a stiffened connection bolted on the column and welded on the beam. And if I select on that and pick on select assembly, you can see we have an assembly here. Now, sometimes maybe I don't need these match bolts, and to modify that, there are two ways here. I can select on the symbol of the macro, then press letter M on my keyboard and enter on my keyboard once again to bring the editor where I'll be able to modify this type of connection. So I have options here where I can adjust that to 40, and if I click apply, I'll be able to see the adjustment live on the screen. And if I put it to 20 or 30, I'll be able to see the live adjustment on the screen. And there's another way we can also change the bolts in another way. I'll show you that. So once I've done so, I'll just go ahead and click OK, and maybe come this far end here and just repeat the same thing. I'll select the symbol for the macro, press letter M and enter on your keyboard like that, and I'll wait for the editor to come, and I'll give I want the plate to move up by 30 probably is okay, and click apply and give it an okay. And maybe now I want to reduce the number of bolts here. To reduce the number of bolts, I can reduce them this way by double clicking on the bolts alone and coming to bolts editor here, and I'll be able to edit. But one thing with that, without exploding this macro, is that if you apply, it will revert to its original number of bolts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select on the macro symbol, then I'll right click and come to macros. So if I come to macros here, I want to explode this macro. So once I've exploded, so the moment I modify the number of bolts, and anytime the macro will not reset back to its default state, and come here and select on that, right click, and come to macro and explode that. But remember, even after exploding, if I come to this beam and right click and come to assembly, my assembly is still intact. And now I'll come here and I want to modify this. I want to reduce the number of bolts here. I'll just double click on the bolts, then just push it aside so that you have a clear visibility of whatever you're doing here. I'll come to position right there and come to grid. Now under grid, you can see the bolt fields are still grid off, and to make them active, just click convert. So on the x-axis, which is this one we are on, I'm going to, you can see the preview of the screen how the bolts have been arranged. So if we tilt it like this, it will line like this. So I'm going to change this to probably I can just leave it at 20 right there, and come here, and I want to add more. I want to reduce this number of bolts maybe to 3, maybe increase the intervals to increase the center to center bolt distances, and I'll give this to 60 millimeter, and this one I can adjust this to 70, and maybe this one here I can take it maybe to 35 right there. So if once I've done the right thing here, I'm going to straight and click apply. So if I click apply, the bolts will adjust, and I'll come this far end also and do the same thing. I'll double click there and come on the positions here and pick on the grid and convert that, and I'll be able to change this to 20 as we had done the other side. If I click on 20 and change this to 3, and I want to change the center distance is here to 60 instead of 48, and I want to change that to 70 and go further and modify that to 35. So go ahead and click apply. Let me just drag that aside and you'll be able to see whatever you're doing live, and click apply, and that has been adjusted. You can see that already done on your screen live. Now I want to add some members on top here. So I'm going to switch back to my top view on a height of 5 meters. I'll just double click that way, and I want to add some secondary members here. So I'll come to beam, then I'll snap right there. I want to snap right there and move all the way to that spot, and move and snap on the same spot once again, and I'll snap here. And I'll go ahead and snap on the same spot once again and move all the way to this particular point here. So once I've done so and click on that, I'll switch back to my 3D or 3D view, and I'll see I have my members already in place. You can see that member, but actually it is in a wrong position because I want to weld this to this. I want these members to be in a position that I'll be able to create a better connection between this beam and this beam here. So what I'm going to do, I still want to add some members here prior to giving it an offset upward. So remember, the center to center distance here, from here to here, this is 10. So I want to add another member in the mid here at a distance of 5. So I'm lost here because I can't really identify or pick the midpoint of this beam. So to do that, or to place that member right in the middle here, I'll come straight. Let me just activate that, deactivate the selection there. I'll come to beam here and pick on the beam. So I'll zoom close and I'll try to snap at the midpoint, at the end point of this particular beam here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going just to press enter. So the moment I press enter, and if you take a look at the direction of my XYZ, you can see the Y is pointing in this direction. So I'll be able to feed in the DX, DY distance of 5, and that will take me to the midpoint of this particular beam at 5 meters, midpoint. So let me just type add 5 to make it 5 meters. So if I press enter, I'll be able to see that indicating an error, and I'll show you the reason why. I'll come back again and just mouse over that spot and enter, and I'll come to DY, and I'll feed in my distance at 5 meters and enter that. So once I've entered that, I'll be able to zoom close and find my location has been identified in the middle here. Now I want to create another distance from that midpoint all the way to this far end at a distance of 4 meters, but I don't know where that 4 meters ends. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press enter once again, and type DX 4 meters. So if I enter that, I'll be able to see that member has been added. So I need the same member, I need this member also to be added on the other end also, this far end, along the y-axis. So what I'm going to do, I'm going just to add, or just to select on that, and come here and pick that, mirror that. Special copy and pick linear, and I want to populate this along the y-axis at a distance of 10 meters. So how many do I need along the x-axis? I'll have to change the y-axis to 0. The x-axis to 0 and feed 10 meters here. And how many do I want along the y-axis? I need approximately 3 or 4 right there, and click OK. So if I click OK, I'll be able to see quite a number of them, but the distance I've entered here, it's quite wrong. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go there and undo that, and come back and select on that, right click once again and come to special copy and pick on linear. So once I've picked on linear, I'll come here and add the distance here and give the count up to 4 right there and click OK. So I'll have those members already in place. You can see that. So I'll be able to mirror the same the other end once I've created this on the other end. So let me then, as we add more members on this particular simple structure of petrol station canopy, and let's meet then. Bye bye. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and also don't forget to have a try on COMOSYS and enjoy the friendly user interface of COMOSYS. Thanks and bye bye.